And changing who you are is one of the most difficult things to do. The main reason is that it's so abstract in nature. So a lot of times you'll hear me talking about concepts like the gym. Well, the gym's easy because it's defined. So you go online, you do some Google searching, you try to figure out what's the best routine. There's going to be a bunch of different opinions, some bro science. But if you do any of those routines and you do them for a long enough period of time with a good diet, you're going to make some gains. When it comes to changing yourself, it's so abstract and not defined. So, example, let's say you're overreactive to a certain type of stress or a social situation, or you get nervous in public. Okay, so how do you even change this? Well, first off, you need to first ask yourself the root problem or the root cause, which could be 20 different things. Typically, it's down to self esteem. What caused that self esteem? Is it how you're raised? Is it trauma based? The point is, you have to figure out what it is first. And this is very hard to do on your own. We are all biased. When we look at ourselves from a rose tinted lens. Most people are not brutally honest to themselves. Most people look at themselves as way better than they actually are. The obvious problem with this mentality is if you think you're special or unique, now it's really hard to address your objective issues. This is where a third party can be really useful. I think initially, of course, you're inevitably going to have blind spots when you're young. You just do things automatically. You don't really think about why you do things. Let's say someone calls you a bad name. You're immediately going to get defensive and you're going to say something back to them like, no, you're that, or something like this. And people are obviously going to perceive that as weakness. You don't even know why you did it. You just did it on impulse. The older you get, the more you start to realize, oh, I probably reacted this way because of fear, because I didn't want to be humiliated. I wanted to show that I'm not a pushover, whatever. But when you overreact, you also look weak in the process. You're essentially shooting yourself in the foot. These are some of the many reasons why changing yourself is so difficult. The other problem is you have no one to hold you accountable. Everybody in your immediate social circle, they want you to stay the same. The reason is they're used to you being this way. If you try to change yourself now, you're going to get a lot of pushback from pretty much everybody in your life. They're going to say things like, oh, well, that's not who you really are, or you're trying to change yourself, you're trying to be different, you're not who you used to be. These are all the typical things you'll tend to hear. This is probably the hardest thing to overcome of all. When your family and your friends and people that you love and care for, when they start telling you that they don't like who you are anymore. It's very hard to get over this wall. The main difference between people that do change and don't is they're willing to take that leap and say, screw you to everybody around them. They understand they only have themselves in this life. Realistically, your friend isn't going to support you or help you do the things you want to do. He's not necessarily going to help you build your dreams. You might get lucky once in a while, and you do have a friend that totally supports what you want to build for yourself. However, most of the time, most people only care about what you bring into their life, not what they bring into yours. If you change who you are and they lose what they hold valuable in you, they're obviously going to be resistant to that, and you have to be willing to let those people go. It's not always permanent. Sometimes they'll come back after and you can recalibrate the relationship, understanding this is who I am now. Those people will have to either accept it or move on, in which case either could happen. Most of the time, they're going to move on. The only way to truly change is to be willing to break out of all of these things. You might have to take a break from some friends. You may have to disappoint some of your family members. You also may have to prepare to be lonely for a certain period of time. As long as you understand that these conditions are temporary, you will get to the other end. On some level, it's a function of discipline, but I have full faith you guys can do this. One of the main reasons I'm talking to you about this today is because most people ask me this question. How do I change? How do I go about the process of change? What do I have to be prepared to do to change? If you're having difficulty being alone and you need some help, check out my free Discord and be around like-minded people. There's a lot of guys in there trying to improve just like you are.